This evening, first, armed robberies with high-powered rifles continue to terrorize businesses across Guyana, even as police report falling crime rates. So where are these weapons coming from? Plus, 2 young men are dead after a violent confrontation at Beirut turns fatal. Also, contractors fired in Region 3 as the Housing Ministry moves to fix stall infrastructure works affecting hundreds of allottees. Meanwhile, government intensifies its crackdown on abandoned vehicles and illegal roadside encroachments nationwide. And internationally, escalating tensions in the Middle East force the closure of major airports, stranding thousands of passengers. Those stories and more coming up. Stay with us. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for March 2nd, 2026. I'm Vivi Backus. Thank you for joining us. First up, a security officer was discovered dead this morning in Sophia, Greater Georgetown, under circumstances that remain unclear. The deceased has been identified as Trelon Frank, a resident of E-Field Sophia squatting area in Sophia. His body was reportedly found on a dam in the community. Police have launched a probe into the circumstances that led to his death, and details surrounding the incident remains under investigation. The matter remains a developing story. Despite repeated assurances from the Guyana police force that serious crime is declining, heavily armed robberies continue to rattle communities, with gunmen wielding high-powered rifles and terrorizing business owners in brazen attacks. On Saturday evening, 3 masked men armed with 2 AK-style rifles and a handgun stormed G. Sudhai and Sons grocery store in Rose Hall, escaping with $1.5 million in cash in a robbery that lasted just over 4 minutes. Nearly a dozen people, including the business owner, his family, staff, and customers, were forced to lie face down as the gunmen pressed weapons to their heads and demanded cash. The attack follows another armed holdup days earlier at a nearby liquor and grocery store, where suspects reportedly fired a shot and escaped with cash and a vehicle. The recurring use of AK-style rifles and handguns has heightened the public fear and raised urgent questions. If crime is down, why are criminals still roaming with military-grade weapons? Where are these guns coming from, and how are they entering communities? Just one day before, 2 masked men robbed Rong Chang Supermarket at Diamond East Bank de Marara, firing rounds as they carted off with $300,000 and fled on a motorcycle. Additionally, police are investigating an alleged armed robbery in which a 22-year-old Venezuelan laborer was shot in the leg and robbed of his cell phone and $30,000 by 2 men on a motorcycle along Flamboyant Street, Eccles Industrial Site on Saturday evening. Police recovered a spent shell and are reviewing CCTV footage. While official statistics may show a crime reduction, business owners say the frequency and firepower of these attacks tell a different story, one of communities still living in fear. As investigations continue, many are calling on the Guyana police force to intensify intelligence operations, strengthen border controls, and ensure illegal firearms are removed from the streets before more lives are endangered. On a different note, the Ministry of Housing, through the Central Housing and Planning Authority, has terminated contractors responsible for infrastructure works in sections of Stewartville East and West, Region 3, citing underperformance and delays. In a statement on Sunday, the ministry said its priority remains delivering serviced house lots to families and assured that new contracts will soon be awarded to restore access for affected allottees. Minister of Housing and Water Colin Crowell, Minister within the ministry Vanessa Ben, Permanent Secretary, and technical officers visited the area on Friday to assess the stalled works.
There have been concerns in the public that some persons who have been allocated have not been able to access their lands. While that is so in some instances, in some aspects of both East and West Stewartville, there are areas where persons have already started construction. We are firm with regard to monitoring and evaluating the work being conducted by the contractors, and those who have been delayed, we've met them. They've been reminded of their contractual obligations. But those that still haven't made any improvement, unfortunately, we'll have to terminate them. Particularly because our concern is more than just having the contractual work being met. It's the fact that we are doing this for persons to be able to have their homes. They can move into them, they construct their homes with regard to those who are doing building. And so people can, be able to have their own private properties, have their titles, and get on with their lives.
Officials reported that of nearly 1,000 lots allocated in Stewartville, about 100 remains impacted by incomplete infrastructure, particularly in specific sections of Stewartville East and West. While many allottees have already accessed their lands and begun construction, others continue to face delays. The ministry said contractors were repeatedly warned and reminded of their obligations before the decision was taken. It emphasized that the housing program is designed to improve living standards and ensure families can begin building their homes without unnecessary setbacks. Stick around when we return. Over 100,000 children to benefit from digital health records, and government steps up removal of roadside encumbrances nationwide.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. What was meant to be a routine visit to see a 1-year-old child turned deadly on Saturday morning as two young men allegedly stabbed each other to death during a violent confrontation at Beirut, East Coast, Demerara. Dead are 22-year-old Joshua Joseph, also called Raccoon, of Melanie Darm Shannon, and 25-year-old Jonathan Hassan, known as Nico, a father of one from Collagen. According to a police report, the incident occurred around 8:30 hours at the home of the mother of Hassan's child. Reports from relatives suggested Hassan had gone to the residence to see his child when he was confronted by Joseph, who was reportedly inside the house. An altercation ensued during which both men sustained multiple stab wounds. Investigators said Joseph left the yard and collapsed near a parked car. He was taken to the Enmore Regional Hospital where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Hassan reportedly rode away on a motorcycle but was later found bleeding on a bench near a shop in the area. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police processed both locations, recovered suspected bloodstains and other items, and lodged the motorcycle believed to be linked to the incident. The bodies were escorted to the Memorial Gardens funeral home, where they await the post-mortem examinations. Investigations are ongoing. Moving on, the Ministry of Public Works has intensified its nationwide campaign to remove abandoned vehicles, encumbrances, illegal encroachments, and road shoulders, warning that actions will be taken against those who fail to comply. Public Works Minister Bishop One Edgehill said the government will no longer tolerate individuals whose actions compromise public safety. Offenders are being notified both in person and via social media and given an opportunity to remove the items themselves. Failure to do so will result in the ministry removing and impounding the items with associated fees applied. The minister stressed that parapets and road shoulders are public property and should not be occupied by private individuals or businesses. He noted that abandoned vehicles and other obstructions not only create an eyesore, but can also become hideouts for criminal activity. The ministry is also addressing businesses that extend operations onto road shoulders and pedestrian walkways, forcing pedestrians into traffic and increasing the risk of accidents. Authorities said the campaign will continue across the country as part of efforts to improve road safety and public order. Citizens are encouraged to report violations via the ministry's dedicated WhatsApp hotline. In other news, More than 100,000 Guyanese children will now have their baseline health information digitally recorded under the government's expanded electronic healthcare system. President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali announced on Saturday. The president made the disclosure during the commissioning of the new outpatient pavilion at Balwant Singh's Hospital on East Street, where he outlined broader plans to modernize the country's health sector. According to President Ali, the integration of electronic health records and expanded screening programs means thousands of children already have their medical data securely stored.
More than 100,000 children of Guyana will now grow up in an environment where their baseline health data has already been captured and recorded to track them for the rest of their lives. That is a new future that our children will grow up in. That is their new reality. That is the new norm. And these are the things that will make the changes long after all of us might be around. Those are the things that will take Guyana into the future, safer, better, and healthier.
This system, he explained, will enable health professionals to track patients' medical histories from childhood through adulthood, thereby improving monitoring, diagnosis, and long-term treatment planning. The president said the initiative represents a major shift towards proactive healthcare, enabling early detection of illnesses and more efficient service delivery. The nationwide rollout of digital records is also expected to reduce waiting time, address shortages, and eliminating inefficiencies within the system. President Ali described the reform as a transformative step in building a future-ready healthcare sector, emphasizing that establishing comprehensive patient records early will strengthen preventative care and improve health outcomes for generations to come. Now, going after the break, Trump suggests a friendly takeover of Cuba amid U.S. fuel blockade, and troubled history of Iran-U.S. relations explained.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world.
Good evening, I'm Dominic Gittins. Tonight, President Trump suggests a friendly takeover of Cuba, drawing sharp condemnation from Havana. The US and Israel launched coordinated strikes on Iran. Airports across the Middle East shut amid rising tensions. And we explain the long, turbulent history between Washington and Tehran. We begin in Cuba. US President Donald Trump has suggested a possible friendly takeover of Cuba, claiming Havana is in deep economic trouble and seeking US assistance. Trump, who has tightened fuel restrictions and imposed tariff threats, says Secretary of State Marco Rubio is leading discussions. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel condemned the remarks as imperialist, vowing to defend national sovereignty amid escalating tensions and humanitarian concerns. Israel and the United States launched coordinated strikes across Iran, hitting sites including the Ministry of Defense. Israel says dozens of military sites were struck as Donald Trump vowed to destroy Iran's nuclear and missile programs. Al Jazeera's Perry Wilton reports.
Among the first victims of the attack by Israel and the US on Iran were here at a girls' primary school in southern Iran. People had to dig through the debris to search for survivors next to what appears to be a school backpack lying in the rubble. In Tehran, the strikes hit some of Iran's most important sites, including the Ministry of Defense, the Atomic Energy Organization, and the Pashan military complex. Strikes also hit near the offices of the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Israel has said it is targeting dozens of military sites in Iran in coordination with the United States. President Donald Trump said the US will destroy Iran's nuclear and missiles programs.
The United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated.
Trump has repeatedly accused Iran of attempting to rebuild its nuclear program, saying Tehran must never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. Iran has stood by its nuclear program, saying it was always for civilian purposes. Trump also called on Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard to lay down their arms. Inside Iran, hospitals have been placed on high alert, with ambulances dispatched from across the capital. The attacks come despite representatives from Washington and Tehran holding indirect negotiations in Geneva this week. And as Iran's retaliatory strikes aim for US targets in neighboring countries, the region is facing fears it could be dragged into a wider, longer conflict. Perry Wilton, Al Jazeera.
Regional uncertainty and ongoing strikes across the Middle East have forced the closure of major airports in Iran, Israel, Iraq, Jordan, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates, disrupting thousands of flights and stranding tens of thousands of passengers. Al Jazeera's Perry Wilton reports.
Blasts have replaced the rush of jet engines above Dubai. Streaks in the sky from missiles instead of the contrails from thousands of flights locals are used to seeing. Dubai is home to the world's busiest airport by international traffic, handling millions of passengers a month. But the closure of its airspace has stranded many.
I think the one thing that I'm worried about is my flight, because I'm supposed to fly back to my home country in 2 days.
It's being felt across the Gulf. Iranian strikes damaged Kuwait's airport on Saturday. And in Doha, the airspace has closed for another of the world's busiest airports.
We got information from ATC control about that airspace is closed.
They are delays which are now being felt worldwide. In Thailand, flights through the Middle East have been mostly cancelled, affecting hundreds. And it's the same in India.
We came here from Uttar Pradesh, and for our flight scheduled to Dubai. Our flight was cancelled, so we don't know what to do. We are helpless. There are 15 of us.
In Paris, many more can't reach their destination.
Unfortunately, our whole trip from our school canceled it, so we're no longer going to Dubai.
Yep, there's no more Dubai trip in the future for us, unfortunately. Yeah. But I don't think there are going to be many Dubai trips happening very soon.
Airlines are citing imminent safety concerns for the cancellations, asking would-be passengers to keep across the latest updates for information. And with the next strikes difficult to predict, passengers are left wondering when things may return to normal.
When we woke up, we found out that the airports had been hit, so it's the unknown. So my daughter's meant to be flying back today, so we're going to find out if the airport's open. So that's the unknown, that's the nervousness, what we're concerned about.
It's that unknown which hangs over the region, a region that's dependent on travel for its tourism and its workforce. And if the conflict in Iran continues, the aviation industry is likely to experience even more disruptions, impacting millions more. Perry Wilton, Al Jazeera, Doha.
The US and Iran have a history of support, interference, and hostility. Al Jazeera's Patty Culhane has a look back at how the two nations have supported and fought each other over the decades.
The Shah of Persia has been paying a state visit to President Truman.
For more than 80 years, U.S. presidents have put an unusual focus on Iran.
Iran.
Beginning in World War II, Britain and the United States used Iran to funnel weapons to help Russia fight Nazi Germany. Successive presidents hosting, supporting, and applauding the Shah, Mohammad Pahlavi. In 1952, U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower authorized Operation Ajax, giving the CIA authority to launch a coup, along with the British, to restore the Shah to power, after the Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, sought to nationalize the country's oil industry. President Eisenhower then sought to bolster the Shah with the Atoms for Peace program in 1957, giving Iran highly enriched uranium and training its scientists in hopes that it would encourage civilian use and not lead to building a nuclear weapon.
Our defense, therefore, will be stronger if, under appropriate security safeguards, we share with our allies certain knowledge of the tactical use of our nuclear weapons.
President John F. Kennedy welcomed the Shah to Washington. President Richard Nixon and President Jimmy Carter even visited Tehran.
Iran, because of the great leadership of the Shah, is an island of stability.
A show of U.S. support for the increasingly authoritarian Shah, who in 1979 fled the country, and Ayatollah Khomeini took power of the newly named Islamic Republic of Iran. In November of 1979, when President Carter allowed the Shah to come to the U.S. for medical treatment, students took over the U.S. Embassy, taking 52 Americans hostage. That and a botched rescue all but assured Carter's defeat to Ronald Reagan. The hostages were released as soon as he took office.
Fellow Americans.
During President Reagan's time in office, the U.S. secretly supported Iraq in its war with Iran, providing intelligence and economic aid to the Iraqi military. In 1983, the U.S. blamed Hezbollah, backed by Iran, for bombing the Marine barracks in Beirut, killing 241 Marines. It was later uncovered that the Reagan administration was also secretly selling weapons to Iran in order to fund rebels in Nicaragua. And in 1988, tensions increased when the U.S. Navy accidentally shot down an Iranian passenger jet, killing the 290 people on board. Modern presidents continued to try to pressure Iran with increasing sanctions, but after the September 11th attacks, then President George W. Bush put Iran high on the nation's enemies list, including it along with North Korea and Iraq in the axis of evil.
Iran aggressively pursues these weapons and exports terror, while an unelected few repress the Iranian people's hope for freedom.
President Barack Obama took a different approach, making an agreement with Iran along with other world powers to limit Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. A deal President Donald Trump ripped up in his first term, also launching a strike in Iraq to kill Qasem Soleimani, the leader of Iran's Quds Force. Now in his second term, launching military strikes for a second time, openly calling for regime change, a new and deadly chapter in a long history of U.S. involvement in Iran. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Thanks, Dominique. This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the Friday weather forecast. And that's it to V2 Headline News for this Monday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for a rebroadcast and on Wednesday at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other and do have a wonderful Padma celebration.